Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kim Eun-young. I'm happy to be your moderator today. Thank you very much coming all the way down to Yeosu out of your busy schedules. My thanks should also go to those people who are watching us from the online services. The Korea-Oecd International Seminar has played a meaningful role as a forum for discussions for current issues in the field of education every year. This year, we hold the seminar under the topic of 2024 Korean Global Future Education EXPO. We look at how education is responding to the environmental changes and social needs under the theme of innovation in teacher education in the digital transformation era. We're very happy to have all the experts to discuss these matters. By having very in-depth discussions, I look forward to have very fruitful results. I'm going to now give you our distinguished guests. We have the honor of having our distinguished guests. First of all, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, His Excellency Lee Joo-ho has attended. And we have President Ko Young-sun of Korea Educational Development Institute. And also under keynote speech, we have Chair Leo Costa, who has been here out of her busy schedules. And our moderator for session number 2 is Professor Kim Lee-kyung of Chungang University. Thank you very much. This, because of the time constraint, I am not able to give you all the distinguished guests, but I'm going to introduce them later. Once again, thank you very much for your ardent participation despite your busy schedules. From now on, we'd like to start our seminar. First of all, we'd like to have Deputy Minister Lee Joo-ho for his welcoming speech. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Very nice to see you. I am Lee Joo-ho. On behalf of the Republic of Korea, I am here to express my gratitude to all the experts and renowned speakers for the 2024 Korea OECD Global Education Forum. And my thanks should go to Leo Costa, OECD EDPC Chair, and Professor Kim Lee-kyung of Chungang University. My thanks should also go to Ms. Miho Takuma, OECD and IE 2030 PM, and Ms. Imelda Santos Calles from Singapore, and Mr. Yang Seung-bok of Yonggwang Chungang Elementary School. Also, my thanks should go to all these renowned speakers and also distinguished people here. If you look at the history of education, we are now getting away from the very traditional educational system of top-down system, and we are now in the transformation era for the students to be able to create their own ideas. So this pressure for change is now asking us to transform our students to be able to express their own ideas and wishes. Teachers are here in order to be a facilitator for this development of students. Customized education opportunities should also be provided to those students, and that is the role to be expected by the new educational system. Therefore, we have to emphasize the importance of the role of the teachers. Innovation should happen in the classrooms, and customized services should be able to those students, and that is exactly up to the capabilities of the teachers. And this is the reason why we are talking about teaching and teachers' capabilities. In the digital world, we have to look at the various aspects of digital transformation, and then we will be able to look at all the elements that should not be ignored. And that is how we will be able to see what will happen to the role of the future. In addition, through our presentations by the teachers in the schools, we will be able to confirm the practices of the changed classrooms and the cooperation among teachers. We really hope that the digital classrooms, teachers, and edutech ecology, as well as the education of citizenship, and they will be all formulated under the sponsorship by the government. I really look forward to your wisdom collectively together. When we gather our wisdom together, and also when we pursue the innovation in the education, which is centered by the teacher, this uncertainty of the future will be transformed into a new opportunity of education. Thank you very much.
다음은 오늘
Next, to congratulate the hosting of today's seminar, Andreas Schleyer, Director for the Directorate of Education and Skills at OECD, sent us a video recording of his remarks. We'll play the video.
Coming together at this Korea-Oecd Seminar on the digital transformation of education. For the first time, digital technology offers us that promise to provide every learner with an excellent education and to give learners real ownership over what they learn and how they learn and where they learn and when in their lives they learn. But that vision will only become a reality if we put our hands together to reshape the places, the people, the technologies, and the relationships to truly transform education. Korea has become an amazing leader to advance this work. You know, everybody these days is looking at the digital textbooks in this country. The most visible benefit of technology in education is so much greater personalization. And while you study mathematics, technology can now study how you learn, where you advance and where you get stuck, and then, you know, where you get interested and where you get bored, and make your learning experience then so much more granular, so much more adaptive, so much more interactive. Digital learning games have started to make learning fun, and simulations let you do things that are difficult or costly to do in the real world. Now, why would we expect a student to listen to a teacher explaining the results of a scientific experiment when they can now do that experiment in a virtual laboratory? Now, augmented reality super empowers the real world and is beginning to transform also vocational education and training. But, you know, data from our PISA assessments show that technology intensity in classrooms is still not systematically driving learning outcomes and student well-being. It's not necessarily a bad reflection on technology, but maybe also on our capacity to use it as its best. The reality is still often a kind of patchwork of digital solutions. You know, schools have to rely on proprietary, sometimes incompatible partial solutions, and you know, when different schools make different choices, they cannot harness the data to help students learn better, teachers to teach better. The point I want to make here is that smart education is not about technology. It's all about a radical reimagination of what teaching and learning can be when they are super empowered by technology. We need to shift attention from learning technology to learning activity and much better integrate individual, team, and class-wide activities with digital environments. Also, the hardware needs to evolve so that devices are more present but less visible, less destructive. And we need smart systems that work for all, that have equity and inclusion not bolted on, but at their very core. In all of that, it's important to keep in mind that technology is not a magic power. You know, it's just an amazing accelerator. It's an incredible amplifier. It's going to amplify good ideas and good pedagogical practice in the same way it amplifies poor ideas and bad practice. Technology can help us make education more inclusive by making learning much more accessible, much more adaptive to the different needs of different learners. But, you know, the pandemic has also shown how technology can amplify almost any form of inequity in education. technology can super empower teachers, as designers of the most amazing, innovative learning environments. Or it can disempower them to become, slaves of scripted lesson plans or algorithms they do no longer understand. Technology can help reduce bias through better data, but it can also amplify and entrench bias. Technology can connect people across geographic, linguistic, cultural boundaries. But it can also sort us into echo chambers that just amplify our own views and insulate us from diverging thinking now. The people who will shape how all of this is going to play out, those are the teachers in our classrooms. They are the real engineers of our future, and where they are not truly at the heart of the design of the digital transformation, teachers can't help us with the implementation. And I know that's where you have put teacher competency at the heart of the seminar here, and I'm sure it's going to be a great success.
네, 목소리를 들어보니까 감기에 걸리신 것 같은데.
Thank you very much. And I feel that his nose has been clogged, but thank you very much for taking his precious time out of busy schedules. I'd like to now give you President of KEDI, Korea Educational Development Institute, Ms. Ko Young-sun. Please welcome her with a round of applause. Good afternoon. I am Ko Young-sun, President of Korea Educational Development Institute. Thank you for attending Korea-Oecd Seminar, which is jointly organized and hosted by the Korea Educational Development Institute, the Ministry of Education, and the OECD. OECD has played an important role in discussing the policies of its member countries and guiding the future direction of many areas. Since Korea joined OECD in 1996, we have benefited a lot from many aspects. In particular, the database established by the OECD has provided policymakers and policy researchers with data for analysis and a reference for comparing Korea with other OECD countries. So in the field of education, Korea has actively participated in the projects such as PISA and TALIS, and has participated in the preparation for reports published by OECD. In this engagement and cooperation, KEDI has played the role of a focal point. On behalf of KEDI, I promise to continue to fulfill this role in the future. I believe today's seminar is also important in this context. In the midst of rapid environmental change, OECD countries, including Korea, are facing a number of new challenges. In particular, along with digital transformation, the technological and market environment are rapidly changing in almost all industrial sectors, and the nature of skills required of individuals is also changing. In addition, the frequent occurrence of pandemics and environmental disasters, as well as changes in the international political environment, are rapidly increasing economic and social uncertainty. In addition, the average life expectancy is extending the length of working period, and it is becoming more important to acquire new skills and adapt to the environment throughout life. It is my understanding that the OECD Education 2030 project is where policymakers, education experts, teachers, and students have been discussing on how to implement the competencies that human resources should possess in the rapidly changing labor market of the future. I would like to express my special gratitude to many people who have been working so hard for this event. We are here in Yeosu, unlike other years today. I hope that this seminar will be a meaningful forum for you. Thank you.
장님 말씀 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ko. This concludes the opening ceremony. We will now rearrange the hall and resume with a keynote presentation on digital transformation challenges for education at 2:30. Those of you joining us on site, please enjoy your short break, then be back in your seats. And for those online participants, we'll see you soon. Now, session 1, as mentioned earlier, will deal with the topic of digital transformation, challenges for education, exploring the aspects of designing and developing curricula in the digital world, and the role of teachers and school organizations that need to deliver capabilities for students to use digital technology. The keynote presentation will be delivered by Mr. Joao Costa, OECD's ADPC Chair and former Minister of Education Portugal. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a great honor, a great pleasure. I'd like to thank not only the minister and his team, but the whole team of KEDI. And now I can correct what I said wrong at lunch, that KEDI stands for kindness, enthusiasm, dedication, and inspiration. And it really is inspiring because together with my dear friend Miho, we at OECD have been learning a lot from the Korean experience in curriculum development. When I was minister and before that state secretary, we started a curriculum reform in Portugal. And I always said without the cooperation among the country members at OECD, without the Global Forum on the Future of Education and Skills 2030, which will now turn into 2040, we would never have been able to develop what we have developed in Portugal. And it was a difficult path, it was a difficult challenge, and what I hope to do in this time we have together is to be able to discuss with you some of the things that are going on in the world. We are discussing here in Korea, in Portugal, in Brazil, in the United States. We are all discussing exactly the same topics, dealing with the same challenges. And what I would like to discuss with you is what we know, what we don't know, but especially the challenges that these new issues are raising for teachers and the new competencies that teachers are required to have. And as you will see, everything I'm going to say is very difficult. And because it is difficult, it's not done yet. Because it is difficult, we have to cooperate and work together so that we learn from each other. And especially so that we learn from the actual teachers that are in classrooms and know more than we academics sometimes know. So we need to bridge more and more this relation between academy and actual classroom. That's where the beauty happens, and that's where we need to know what you need so that we can support you better. So we know by now, and we've heard it several times today, that many things are going on around the world. We are dealing with climate change, and it's unthinkable to prepare a generation that is not ready to deal with climate change. We actually have to transform climate anxiety that our young people experience into climate awareness and climate knowledge so that they can be actors in facing this reality. We've heard a lot about artificial intelligence, and I will go back to this during my talk. Some time ago, I was explaining my children, they are 22 and 25, my two boys, what it was like when I was doing my PhD abroad and I was dating their mother, that I had to call her on the phone with coins, and that I could only do it once a week because it was so expensive, and that when the coins would end, the call would end. And they looked at me as if I was a character of Jurassic Park. They thought this, and I felt very old, but this was only 25 years ago, 30 years ago. So things have changed so fast that we are not even aware. I was trying to imagine what it was like when I started driving and I had a map in my car, a paper map, and not a GPS, not a phone talking to me. And I was asking myself, would I be able to do it with the paper map again? And I'm not sure I would be able to find my way without the technology. We experience times of new radicalisms, times in which tolerance and new forms of segregation are emerging in different parts of the world. And this is also connected with the rapid rise in technology, because we see some of this radicalism being disseminated through the social media, through the rapid emergence of fake news. And these are all challenges that have to be addressed when we're talking about education. So I'd like to tell you that when we are defining education policies, I always like to work with these three words: success, inclusion, and citizenship. So many times we're talking about quality education, but we never define what is quality. And if you don't define the word quality, what will happen is that we'll say that a successful student is the one that has the top marks. But what if he has top marks and he hasn't learned anything? Is he successful just because he had a one happy day in the exam day? Or we should define the meaning of success in a more substantial way. Second word is inclusion. The biggest challenge for education systems is to really make sure that when we say that education is the most powerful weapon we have to make sure that there is social mobility and that we fight inequity, that we actually make this happen. That is not just a beautiful set of words. And if an education system does not provide social mobility, I don't think we can talk about a quality education system. If it's only for the happy few that sometimes, and I'm going to say something very ugly, sometimes learn in spite of school, then we are not providing a good education service. And the same holds for citizenship. If we learn all kinds of content, all kinds of subjects, but by the end of the school, we are not able to interpret what the politicians say, to relate with the others in society, maybe we have failed in our education systems. So in Portugal, when we wanted to define this word success, we started designing our competence-based curriculum. And basically what we are saying here, and we'll not go through this in detail, but what we are saying here is that a successful student is someone who knows things, is knowledgeable, but he goes way beyond encyclopedic knowledge. He's someone who's able to reflect, to be critical, to analyze, to solve problems, to work with the others, who knows what to do and how to take care of his body, who knows how to wonder in the face of art and beauty. And I will come back, I'm a big fan of artistic education, so I will definitely come back to the role of art and aesthetics in education. Someone who is autonomous, someone who can, in a nutshell, someone who will be able and wanting to learn throughout his life. If by the end of the schooling we have not prepared people who want to learn for the rest of their lives and are capable of learning for the rest of their lives, we have failed our mission. When we're talking about inclusion, and I have this schema here, it's in Portuguese, but you will understand. This is a bit the history of inclusion in Portugal. We started at the beginning of last century with a world of exclusion. So all those who were different, because they had some kind of impairment, because they didn't speak the language, because they were migrants, didn't participate. They were outside. Then in the 50s of last century, especially for impairment, we created special education institutions. So yes, we were taking care of them, but they were segregated. They were in places in which they were not having contact with the others. Then, at the beginning of this century, since the 96, 97, we started integrating these children in regular schools, but still in separate places in regular schools. And the big step was taken 6 years ago when we changed the law on inclusion, and we challenged the schools and the teachers to say, no, inclusion is about growing together. And this means that those who have some kind of impairment, those who do not speak the language, those who have a different cultural background, have to grow together with the others. And this is very challenging. This is very difficult. This requires teachers to be very different, because exclusion is based on the idea that we are all the same. Inclusion is based on the idea that we are all different, and we need to attend to the specific needs of each and every child. I normally use this metaphor. I'm short-sighted. If I take out my glasses, you are all homogeneous. Now you all look the same, but I don't see anyone. If I put my glasses back on, I see your faces. And I see that some of you are paying attention, others are falling asleep, others are looking at their phones. Normal life, that's how things are. We are all, in these days, we are all paying attention at different things in different moments. So inclusion means that all means all, that there is no child with its specific needs that we can forget. It means that all resources in school have to be directed for well-being and for learning. Inclusion is about removing barriers to the curriculum, in accessing the curriculum. It's about flexibility. We had to make this law together with the law on curriculum flexibility, on different ways of assessing. We cannot assume that we are educating well by standardizing everything. Standardization is an enemy of inclusion because it disregards the specific needs of everyone. And the same holds for assessment. I will come back to this. And it is about growing together. Many times when we talk about inclusion, we think of those that are excluded. But we become much better persons when we live together with those who are different. I will be short of time, but I will tell you this story. My big lesson on the difference between integration and inclusion was when I visited a school. We have one day in Portugal in which we make this simulation of an earthquake, and we teach the children, you know, the gestures, what they have to do when there is an earthquake, how to protect themselves. And I was in two classrooms, second grade. By sheer coincidence, there were two kids in wheelchairs in these two classrooms. In one of the classrooms, there was an adult there who turned the wheelchair so that this kid could see the others doing the activity. In the other classroom, there was one little kid, a 7-year-old, that when the bell rang because there was the earthquake, he ran, he grabbed his friend from the wheelchair, he dragged him in the room, he went under the table and protected him. This one was included, the first one was integrated. But the whole class of the second one learned much more because they were responsible for each other, they were co-responsible. And inclusion is about community and about taking responsibility for all. And citizenship. Citizenship, I've been very much attacked about the citizenship curriculum because of sexual education, gender equality, and they say, you're preaching the children with this United Nations ideology. And I said, no, we are providing information so that students can take their options when they are adults based on knowledge and information. And then they can do whatever they want with this knowledge and this information. But they can choose in conscience and not just choose because they read something on TikTok or on Twitter or on Facebook. Facebook is for those who are above 50. Instagram. So we are living, sometimes our debates in education are based on false dichotomies. We have intense discussions on whether we should have a knowledge-based curriculum or a competence-based curriculum. We need both. There are no competencies without knowledge, and knowledge by itself, if it doesn't turn into anything, we just learn and forget. We see discussions on whether having an inclusive curriculum is lowering the standards. No, inclusion is never about lowering the standards. Inclusion is about having a better society. And if sometimes we have to walk a bit slower so that more of us walk, that's excellency. That's where we want to go. Sometimes when we started talking about well-being, people say, well, that's not the mission of school. Happiness is not the mission of school. School has to be serious and strict and demanding. Well, happiness is about seriousness. There's nothing more serious than being happy. And we learn better when we're happy. And the goal of learning is also to be our happiness. We learn to have a happy life because then we are more free. We are more free to choose. We are more free to live. And when we are free, we are happier people. And also, what do we want when we have a curriculum design? Do we want only the foundational literacies? This is only about language and mathematics and science? Or is it also about physical education and the arts and experimenting and going out in the woods and learning outside? And I will make the case for this holistic approach and for these richer competencies that we have to develop. So in this world, in this fast-changing world, I will make the case for the importance of creative and critical thinking in curriculum development. And again, this does not mean that we are not learning literature and mathematics and science. It has to do about how we learn it and what the teachers have to do in order to develop this new way of looking at learning. And so I will give you 11 reasons for why we should care about creativity and critical thinking in the curriculum. And they're all about learning, but they all have implications on what teaching is about. So I'm going to advocate for this integrated curriculum in which we need the technology, but we need to climb trees and play outside. Children need to play. Play is a very important dimension of our lives because we deal with risk, we deal with daring ourselves, we deal with moments in which there are no pre-designed rules, we deal with creativity when we play. And we need technology, but we now also need physical books. Because, you know, sometimes I love reading in the beach. And sometimes I can be out of battery and I want my book to go on. And, you know, a paper book is a very good gadget. The battery never goes off. It's always there. And I can flip the pages and I cannot flip my laptop. And so there's big advantages in this. And we're talking also about social and emotional skills. For many years, we didn't think that this was part of the curriculum. But today we heard in the morning in Michael Sandel's talk, we heard about student anxiety, student stress, student burnout because of all the pressure on competition. And life is not about competition. Life is about cooperation. And we grow much faster and better when we cooperate. We are all codependent. For me to get here, I needed the invitation, but I needed whoever cleaned the airplane before I started my travel. If those people were on strike, I would not be here. So we all need each other. And we are codependent. We are not going through individual races in our lives. So, reason number one. Many times we ask people, what is a good student? And many times we ask people, what is a good citizen? And the classical representation of a good student that is still going on in the common and shared representation is someone like you right now. Someone who sits very quiet, someone who knows all the answers, someone very competitive. But then, if this is what we deliver, this is not what the world wants from the students. We want firms, companies, academy, We want people who are cooperative, they are able to work together, so they are not in an individual race, as I said before. They are good at asking questions. They are good at dealing with new situations and providing answers for new situations, not just repeating whatever has been taught. And they are creative. They know how to deal with constantly changing realities. So we have this clash between what was the representation of a good student and what the good worker and citizen is. Now, this has an impact on teachers. Teachers have to have different classrooms, not this buzz format in which we all sit to the front. No, we need these tables in which we work together. We need to promote group work. We need to promote problem-based learning. And this is actually the reason number 2. When we think of the old scientists, and I have Galileo here, I have the philosophers here, these were people that were not repeating whatever had been taught. They were just amazed. There's this beautiful book called The Beautiful Question by a physics Nobel Prize, and what he shows is that the most modern technology and science that we have started with questions in ancient philosophy of people that did not care about the utility of the questions. They just looked at nature and wondered. They were awed. They admired beauty, and because of that, they started having questions. So, as a teacher, to reserve time and space for admiration, for just staring at things and looking at beauty, at the creation, looking at a painting, reading a poem, it's something that will prompt your students to be able to awe, to be surprised, and to want to ask questions. Then we are in this world, we had never had so much information, but information is not knowledge. Information is just information. We have a world of fake news. We saw it during the pandemic. Bleach as disinfectant and as a vaccine. We saw even the president of a country saying that we could inject bleach in your veins to block the virus. We have this thing that is very common on the internet. You make a picture of someone together with a sentence, and everyone believes that this person said that sentence. That's why I have Einstein saying, I never said that, because there's so many pictures of Einstein with sentences that he never said. And if your students are not able to have critical thinking and to critically analyze the information they get, they will believe. And this also means that teachers themselves have to have knowledge and the tools to disentangle fact from fiction when we access the information on the internet. Learning cannot be about forgetting. We forget a lot of what we learned. And if, as has been studied at length, students do these very rigorous exams, and 2 months later, they don't remember 50% of what they prepared to, this means that this exam was useless. It was a moment. It was not about learning. And this means that teachers have to turn their job into making sure that learning has an impact, that what we learn stays. And this implies that we as teachers, I teach as well at my university, have the capacity of recalling what are those things that I never forgot? How were they taught? Why did they leave a mark on me? And for this, you need to teach in different ways, because we learn better the things that we experience. So experimental work that involves creativity and hands-on is much more productive and fertile than just presenting a PowerPoint. You take notes and then we go out for coffee and we forget everything. Even in the world of technology, because there is knowledge that we must access even when there is no signal, even when there is no Wi-Fi, and so that we are able to navigate in this world. We have talked about equity, diversity, inclusion, human rights. Human rights, the respect for human rights requires creativity and imagination. I know that we have an economist in the rooms, but I have to say this. The biggest conquerors in terms of human rights preservation were not made by people who make counts. Think of the abolition of slavery. It's much cheaper to have slaves, but it doesn't respect humanity and mankind. So human rights were always fought by people who had the creativity to think that the world could be different, that a different ethnicity could have the same rights, that women could vote when it was impossible in the past to consider that women were the same as men. For centuries, women in some parts of our globe were considered things, not persons. And someone had the creativity of saying things can be different. And so, when we foster creativity in education, we are preparing citizens that will be able to think differently. And this requires something that is very important, which is the ability to ask questions. We were talking about ChatGPT this morning, and yeah, ChatGPT gives the answers. But what if we don't ask the right question? Maybe ChatGPT will give us the wrong answer. So, as teachers, we have to stimulate the art of questioning. And I'm using the word art on purpose. Questioning is really an art. And for this, we have to promote debate in the classroom. We have to, we ourselves, be questioning all the time what we know. Because this is much more demanding. This is much more difficult. I'm a linguist, and I often, when I teach future teachers, prospective teachers, I give the example of how we teach dialogue in the language class and the oral interaction. And what happens in class many times, it's the pure contradiction of what a normal dialogue is. Look at that. What happens in traditional classrooms? The person who knows the answer asks the question to the student. And the poor student, who does not even understanding the question, has to provide the answer to the person who already knows the answer. This does not make sense. So if we train the asking of questions, the answers will appear much more naturally. And we are giving tools to the students to be able to be inquirers in their future life. Again, this requires new practices in the classroom. Having a classroom in which the teacher asks all the questions, it's much more comfortable than a classroom in which we ask the kids to be the question askers all the time. When we are talking about creativity and critical thinking, we are talking about processes. And this is very important in the digital world we are living in. Yeah, machines give us very prompt answers very quickly. But most of the most difficult tasks have to do with understanding how we get to the answer. So, and that's why when we have a project-based learning, we are talking about every step of a process until the moment in which we reach the answer. And so this means, again, that a more active methodology in terms of teacher preparation and teacher action in the classroom involves asking a question, discussing with the students how we'll find the answer. A project is much more difficult to develop than, again, just reading a textbook where all the answers are. Because a project implies defining a methodology of study to discuss with your peers whether this is the best methodology or not. This is the usual thing. We are used to ask kids from very early on, what do you want to be when you grow up? But we know that jobs will be very different, that many professions will disappear, that new jobs will come up. We also know that the most rote-based jobs and routine-based jobs will be best performed by machines, and new jobs will appear, and creativity will be a precious tool, because whatever is done just by routine, any algorithm can learn very quick. There's this book by actually a Portuguese neuroscientist, Damasio, called Descartes' Error. And what he discovered in his research is that when we make decisions, it's not only reasoning that is acting. Actually, most of our decisions are taken by emotions. So if we want to prepare students to make the right decisions in their lives, we have to work their reasoning and we have to work their emotions. And this is a very strong case for the role of social-emotional skills in school. And this means that teachers are not just content providers, they're also emotion managers in the classroom, so that children may learn better. And for this, and this is an important dimension that we have been studying at OECD, at the Global Forum, but also at Thales, teacher well-being is also something important, because you cannot work the emotions of the others if you're not feeling well. And you can imagine what the teacher unions would say in Portugal when I say this. Yeah, you want us to feel well, raise our salaries. But it's not just about salaries, it's about many other dimensions. Also, I mentioned radicalisms, I mentioned fake news, I mentioned the emergence of populisms. Democracy requires time. Democracy, what is a populist? A populist is someone who provides a simple answer to a complex question. And when we integrate the arts, the process, the problem in the way we teach, we are granting the time that is a necessary condition to find consensus, to deal with complexity. Suppose I'm a crazy person and a kid asks me, why is it raining? And I say, because God is in tears. Very quick answer, very convincing. God is in heaven, heaven is above, he's in tears, it's raining. Wrong, fake. Now, to tell the kid the truth, it requires much more time. And we live in a moment, in a culture of immediate things. And that's an enemy of democracy. That's why I like so much the arts education. And the arts are those moments in which time stops. We go to a concert, we go to a theater, we go to the movies, we read a novel, and we turn off our phone. And the art is complex. And the arts make us think that there are alternative worlds that are possible. And the arts and creativity and criticism is what makes us uniquely human. We are human because we have language. No other species has language. And we are human because we are able to deal with what is beauty. No, you've never seen a cow looking at a painting and saying, no. We are the only species that is able to stop and be amazed by something that is beautiful. So if we leave the arts and the creativity out of the educational space, we are leaving humanity out of the education space. And again, this involves different teaching practices. This involves teachers who are curious. This involves teachers who are themselves engaged with the arts and with philosophy and with literature. teachers must be models for the students, reading models, arts models, so that the students can be inspired by the teachers and not just taught by the teachers. This has I'm finishing because my time is up. This has consequences for assessment. If we want students to be knowledgeable and critical and creative and reflexive and working together, we have to create assessment tools that make sure that we assess creativity and collaboration and reflection. I, as a teacher, many years ago decided to have one of my exams is made by pairs of students. And the first reaction was, how do you know if I did the whole thing and he didn't do anything? And I said, I don't care, that's your problem. For the rest of your life, we'll be working in teams, and no one will be asking whether one member of the team did everything. If you want to do the whole exam by yourself, you're not taking good care of yourself, and you're not taking good care of your peer, because he's not going to learn anything. So we have to be open to assess in different ways. Equity and inclusion requires diversified strategies of assessment. We have good examples already. When we look at vocational education and training, we assess students by projects and by their internships in companies. When we have practical arts education, we assess performative dimensions of the students' work. So why can't we do it in the rest of the curriculum? We have already good examples in our national curriculum. The same for lifelong learning and for adult education. We do a lot of assessment by portfolio. So why not having portfolios as a tool for assessment? It's more work, it is, but it's better learning and better teaching. We also need, and I will close here, there is a case for novel educational resources. AI can be a good thing for having differentiation in the classroom, more personalized, more customized educational resources. And this is something in which the technology can be a big help for teachers. But we need to pressure these technology companies to do what we need and not just us adapting to what they produce. So there must be a strong voice of teachers in identifying their needs and not just being consumers of whatever these companies want to sell us. Very important, and this is something that I started doing in Portugal, that we do at the Global Forum at OECD, that UNESCO is doing, is to give students a voice. Because we're talking about equity, we're talking about learning. And no student will have success if we don't know how they learn. No student will be included if we don't listen to why they are not being able to learn. No student will be an active citizen if we don't give them a voice, because citizenship, not citizenship, citizenship is about having a voice and expressing your opinion and expressing your desire for participation. Again, a loud classroom in which students have a voice involves teachers who have the ability to be able to listen to their students and to also learn from them. So teaching is turning into a completely different thing, and we need to cooperate to learn from each other. Thank you. I'm sure you were doing other things during my talk, but thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Yoel. 네, food for thought이라고 하죠. 굉장히
You know the term food for thought. He gave a lot of food to chew on for thinking. Let us thank, I'm sure, Iwawa Costa once again with a big round of applause. I think we have time for just one question from the audience. So if there's a question, please raise your hand. And if we're running out of time, please save that question for the Q&A session slated towards the end of this seminar. Is there a question? We'll just take one question from one person. Are you waiting for your coffee break? Well, there's one question coming to us through YouTube. As a former Minister of Education in Portugal, how can we adopt, or how did you adopt integrated curriculum moving away from high-stress examinations? What are some of the lessons that you were able to draw from that? So could you elaborate about your high-stress exams and how that gave way to well-designed curriculum?
It has not been easy, and it's not been easy. So it's a difficult task to build this integrated approach, and we have to be aware that many people resist. And many people resist because we feel comfortable with the ways we always worked, and because having a formative assessment approach is at odds with a society that became very competitive, very individualistic, and so we faced many barriers in developing this integrated approach to the curriculum. However, one important thing was to work with the teachers, with the schools, we invest a lot on professional development. We made a big move on professional development, on assessment, on formative assessment, on creating a new type of low-stakes examination, national examination, that for the first time merged different subjects. So we assess Portuguese together with sciences, Portuguese together with maths, so that we can show by the national assessment that it is possible to relate the different subjects. It was more difficult to change things at the upper secondary, and this brings me back to this morning's lecture by Michael Sandel. Why? Because of access to university. So universities were not very open to change the access model. So we still have national exams, high-stakes exams at the end of upper secondary, and we really need, after we do this work in elementary and secondary education, we really need to move on and to talk with the university about this. Universities are very conservative in teaching methods. Universities are very, very conservative when we're talking about inclusive education. And if inclusion does not reach higher education, it will not reach the whole of society.
Thank you. Well, even the timing is okay. 마치고 잠시 휴식 시간을 가진 뒤
This concludes our first session, and we will have a break, and we will continue our seminar with the session number 2 with many more scholars and experts. And if you have any further questions, we will give you more opportunities to ask your questions after the end of the next session. And please enjoy the coffee and beverage during the break. And after that, we're going to see you again at 3:25.
Good afternoon. We will soon begin with session 2. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back. Now, session 2, as mentioned before, will address the topic of digital transformation and teacher competencies. We've invited a panel of experts to exchange views on the topic and explore ways to innovate. Now, moderating this session is Professor Lee-kyung Kim from Chungang University.
님이십니다.
And Professor Kim Hee-kyung is actually senior to me. She and I went to the same university. Actually, she served the same position as I did as a global director, and also she has been the person who has made the groundwork of these activities. She has been diversely involved in OECD activities, and she also has been in every scene of making very important decisions about the education in the ministry. So now, back to you, Professor Kim. Good afternoon. As was introduced, my name is Lee-kyung Kim, Dean of Graduate School of Chungang University. I'd like to extend my warmest welcome to all the audience to be participating in this session 2 of the Korea-Oecd Seminar. It's my pleasure to be a moderator. I have been in this industry for longer than a decade, and also I've been an organizer at one point. I've been been a moderator at other points, and today I am serving as the moderator, and it doubly gives me the pleasure of being able to see you. Our time has been allocated between 3:30 to 5. As a moderator, I'll be a very good timekeeper to provide all these opportunities to the global experts on the education issues. We'll be talking about the competencies of the teachers and what to educate and what to do for the future. So they will give us a lot of food for thought. Once again, I'd like to give you our panelists today. In the previous session, we had our keynote speaker. We have Joao Costas. I was having a hard time in pronouncing his name. So it's not Joao, it's Joao. Am I right? So Joao Costa, his OECD EDPC chair. And please welcome him with a big round of applause once again. Thank you very much for being here. And my old friend, Miho Taguma, is here. Thank you very much. Miho Taguma is a person who has been done a lot of projects in OECD. And especially these days, she has been involved in Education 2030 as a project manager, and she is also a gem in the OECD. Please give her a big round of applause, Miho. Next, I would like to also provide you someone who is very important, and her name sounds very familiar. We have Professor Imelda Santos Caleon. If you know more about Singapore and other countries, Singapore is a country which has been ranking very high, actually #1 in PISA competition. You might wonder what happens in Singapore in order to educate the teachers to that greatest level. And Melda is the person who has been involved in the NIE, National Institute of Education, which is the only education in Singapore about education. She's now serving as the head of NIE. So Professor Caleon, please welcome her with a big round of applause. Thank you very much, and I hope I can have bigger sound of applaud. And I wish you can have really put more energy onto your applaud. Now that we have our teacher himself, this is your last chance to be very, very energetic in applauding. So please welcome Mr. Yang Seung-bok, teacher of Yeonggwang-chung-ang Elementary School. Yes, I see the cheering, it's getting better, and you get more energetic. So I believe that you're ready to hear something out of this. I'll give to 18 minutes per panelist for their presentation before we have our discussion. So once again, I'd like to ask you to cheer up, bigger and bigger sound. I need more, higher tone. Okay. Thank you so much for your cooperation. This is a seminar that is like a festival where everybody is involved. We have all the experts from the universities, elementary schools, and I really believe that this is a very fantastic party and celebration, so you have to be smiling, not frowning. So now I'm going to give you our first panelist.
So in charge of the OECD Future of Education and Skills 2030, let us invite Ms. Taguma with her presentation with a big round of applause.
안녕하세요. So thanks to your positive energy, I get really positive, so I can start with a big smile from this side too. So thank you very much for your kind introduction. My name is Miho Taguma. I'm a senior policy analyst and I'm currently leading the Education 2030 project. So before I begin, I want to make it clear how our project 2030 has implications for this specific seminar. So the title of this seminar is Digital Transformation and Teacher Competencies. And as many of the previous speakers, including Joao, spoke about, transformation is not simple digitalization. So using digital devices, how can we really transform, change education itself? So this is a big question, and changing our attitudes as well. And also, Here we say teacher competencies, but teacher competencies is part of a bigger picture about the role and responsibility and passion of teachers. So teacher profile, which goes beyond teacher competencies, where students can learn and also improve their well-being. So Education 2030 looks at a really big picture, of which I would like to focus today's presentation on this title of the seminar. So with the limited time, I would like to focus on 3 points. One is a very brief overview of Education 2030 project itself, and then I will shift the focus to the introduction to the learning compass. We first looked at, thank you very much. So first looked at the learners and learning, and we produced the learning compass. Now it is time to focus on teachers and teaching. So I would like to share with you current ideas, what we or the global community is discussing about the teaching compass. It's not closed yet, so it provides opportunities for Korea to continue collaborating with the global and leading. So the first overview, very brief overview, because the project itself started back in 2015. So we've come a long way already. In phase 1, we looked at what questions, big picture. What kind of competencies do today's students need to thrive and shape? All the students can thrive and shape a better future themselves, and how those competencies can be integrated into the curriculum. And we launched Learning Compass back in 2019. Since then, we have shifted the focus to how questions and shifting the focus to teachers and teaching. So for the vision making, our questions include what are teacher agency and teacher competencies and teacher well-being, and that are needed to put that learning compass a reality. And for curriculum analysis, we have shifted the focus from design to implementation and evaluation. So in order for all learners to thrive and learn and feel a sense of ownership themselves, what kind of curriculum implementation are effective? And what kind of learning environment can really foster those competencies for students? And we are currently developing Teaching Compass, as indicated by Andrea Schreicher, my boss, in the video. So this is the OECD 2030 at the OECD, the picture. And Joel was one of the participants because it was before COVID. And we really take a multi-stakeholder approach. So our moderator today mentioned about we have teachers here. Unfortunately, we don't have students. But at the OECD, we, of course, have government representatives. But everybody said we really need to go far, not fast. It takes time, as indicated by Joao. We need a sense of ownership by everybody. Everybody can be a leader. So we have teachers, school leaders, academics, of course, teacher educators, NGOs, edtech companies, foundations, and other private sectors, and teachers to be, the future teachers. And most importantly, we have students. So this is a constituent of our project. And by having all this multi-stakeholder leadership, engagement, and commitment to change, now I'm going into a little bit of a content of Learning Compass. So we started by a question, as Joel said, not answering, but asking the right question is the key. So the question was, what future do we want? Rather than what the future is likely to happen, and therefore we have to respond to that trends. So that is more receptive, but we agreed to ask a question, what kind of future we want to shape, rather than respond to the trends. And for the vision making, that we can backcast and look at what is the gap between today and future we want, then we can strategically plan how to get there. And this future we want, OECD already has a Better Life Index well-being framework used across any directorate, including the Department of Economics as well. So this is in line with the the capital theories as well. So if individual well-being in various areas, such as getting a job, getting an income, but as Professor Michael Sanders said, not money can buy everything. And therefore, life-like balance, safety, life satisfaction, health, environment, this holistic individual well-being will contribute to nations' economic capital, human capital, national capital, social capital, and natural capital. And in return, these national prosperity enhances individual well-being too. And this is in line with the SDG goals as well. And in order to get to where we want, individual student can take a different path. It is no longer the same path everybody follows, but personal path is very important. And we call it student agency. But students are not learning oneself, himself or herself. And here, the Korean participants, especially from KEDI, Eun, as a national coordinator, contributed, collecting the Korean voice and influenced this holistic approach at the OECD, followed by Nordic countries and other Asian countries as well. So agency is not only individual agency, but also co-agency. Students are learning not only from teachers, but also from peers, from parents, sometimes from their neighbors, siblings, and others. And collectively, students are learning in a dynamic of a group, collective agency. And we also take a holistic approach, not only to student agency, but also a competency. There is often a false dichotomy about competencies versus knowledge, but actually competencies include knowledge, skills, and attitudes and values. And once again, as highlighted by Professor Michael Sandel, attitudes and values are very important. Those are underpinning values to change how people use knowledge and skills. And using all these competencies, we have core foundations. And students need, of course, cognitive foundation, but it is no longer the literacy, numeracy only. But all students need digital literacy and data literacy. We start to see ChatGPT coming into everyday life, but next wave will be the big data. There will be a lot of data to be used in daily life. So how can every student be able to make right judgment based on various affluent of data? And also, as also pointed out by Joel too, it's not only cognitive foundation which is important as part of core foundations. Core foundations include not only cognitive, but socio-emotional foundations. And also health foundation, which has become highlighted during the COVID as well. Today's students are suffering more rate of mental health issues, both physical and psychological health, as highlighted by World Health Organization as well. They are living in a total different environment, not only COVID, but also social media. And there is a syndrome sociologists often cite as FOMO syndrome. FOMO stands for fear of missing out. So today's students are fear of, maybe I may be missing important information, so they get on SNS, but actually it may be negatively affecting their psychological state. So it's very important that today's students are not really feeling to be evaluated by others. They really need to have a strong belief in their own sense-making and meaning-making themselves. And actually, these foundations in 2030 is really aligned with the PISA data as well. PISA also has a well-being framework, and I'm not going into detail for the interest of time, but this is a various aspect of PISA data now being collected. And oftentimes it's only academic performance which is reported by the media. But PISA is actually to analyze the systems and school level factors and individual factors, how interventions are affecting on all of the student environment. And not only academic performance, but psychological well-being, agency, resilience, socio-emotional resilience, engagement with school, quality of relationship and community, and school work, school leisure balance. For adults, it's work-life balance, and also the cultural well-being and openness to diversity. So PISA, we invite you to look at other aspects than PISA than academic performance. And on top of the core foundation for all students to be able to shape their own future, transformative competencies are important. One is creating new value. No longer the just using tools, but creating a lot of tools to create their own tools as well, and the procedures. So new value include not only products, but services, way of thinking, way of life. Anything new needs to be created, but not all innovations are always good to humankind. Like drone is new, but there's no legal framework yet, so there are a lot of uncertainty. So making something new, being ethical about that something new, innovation is very important. So taking responsibility is what the OECD global community highlights as important competencies. And in order to create something in an ethical way, that creates always tensions, dilemmas, contradictions sometimes, trade-offs, ambiguities. So embracing and reconciling those tensions and dilemmas is so much needed in today's young people. So that's the general ideas of the learning compass. Now, taking that one step forward, the global community are discussing certain ideas, not all, but I would like to introduce you some. But as a base, the Global Forum already agreed that the teaching compass should be the mirror of the learning compass, not something separate, not something independent. So we already have learning compass, and the teaching compass should follow the same structure of the important components for learners and teachers. So teaching compass will have three main pillars. One is teacher agency, teacher co-agency, teachers collective agency, and also teacher well-being. And teacher competencies include teacher knowledge, teacher skills, teacher attitudes, and values. So you can see teacher competencies, of course, is one of the big components, but that needs to be understood together with teacher well-being and teacher agency. And also, teachers as lifelong learners was also highlighted because things are changing all the time. So teachers need to be always open as a lifelong learner. And that was agreed in the 2030 Global Forum back in Israel. And therefore, in the final version, we are thinking of integrating learning compass and teaching compass into one, so that we can ensure conceptual coherence. And about the teacher agency and co-agency and collective agency for teachers, the most important construct of teacher agency is a sense of purpose. The teachers can really feel that they are teaching for the right purpose. As Professor Michael Sanders said, yes, the love of learning for its own sake, rather than being evaluated and passing the test. So teachers need to feel a sense of purpose and meaning and professional identity, but also compassion for their own profession. And they also feel, or they need to be empowered by taking part in the decision-making process. not just following what school leaders said or Board of Education or the ministry says, but teachers need to make judgment in their own learning environment because students they have are quite different from region to region, for example. And this is just to show you how our curriculum analysis shows how much autonomy the Korean teachers and school leaders already have. So majority of the items can be actually decided by the teachers and school leaders. And if we look at another analysis, you can see teachers in particular are given the space to make decisions about teaching method and strategies, and also assessment much more. And increasingly, students are becoming part of the decision-making about the curriculum. That said, for equity reason, the government still wants to be in charge and responsible for making decisions on the learning content, so that anywhere students are born, they have access, equal access to the content and opportunities to learn. And in terms of the co-agency, it's very important that teachers and the society recognize how hard teachers work. And co-agency includes teacher-student, teacher-teacher, teacher-school leader, teacher-parent, teacher community, and teacher technology now, AI, and teacher, and so on. So congratulations for teachers' work. And one question is, how about agency, co-agency, collective agency in the context of transforming teaching and learning in the age of AI? And this is just to show you a quick overview, snapshot of what the global community has been discussing. So we invited AI developer and academic expert and teachers and students, and they discussed about how to use it in the classroom. And interestingly, classroom is becoming more and more complex. Traditionally, there was a teacher and a learner, and of course, peer learners, other students. Nowadays, teachers start to use AI as assistant, but also there are AI tutors starting to teach the student who has different role than AI assistant. And now there are AI learner. In Australia, they call it My AI, and sometimes students call it AI as peer learners, or sometimes they find their own identity in this as well. And of course, teachers, human teachers, learners, learner peers are learning, but what is scary is AI assistant, AI tutors, AI learners are learning as well, but much faster, but not necessarily better, with a lot of biased data too. So this is a more complex classroom, which is becoming. And Andreas, together with other experts, talked about the benefit, such as AI can be fun for students and adaptive, personalized, differentiation. However, there are potential risks on equity, ethics, security, privacy, student data, and possible unintended consequences on human and social well-being and empowerment or disempowerment at the same time. And we also invited Sweden and Australia to look at how assessment is being changed with the use of AI. So personalized learning and personalized assessment for learning are starting to emerge in the classroom. So one of the questions we would welcome Korean teachers and academics to contribute to Teaching Compass is what remains as the intrinsic nature of human teaching, even in the era of AI. And just to finish the rest of the construct of the teachers, so teachers' self-efficacy and also the, sorry, just 1 minute. Can I just, very briefly, I know I'm running out of time, but yes, Korean teachers are very well respected. And this is quite rare. So Singapore and Korea are the outliers rather. So congratulations, and this is very important to maintain because for other countries, they are trying to rebuild that social status. It's very difficult. That said, Korean teachers are working maybe too hard. So this is the data, and you can see one data here. So Korea and Japan, originally I'm from, are here outliers. Administrative work is so much on the shoulders of Korean teachers. So this is where we can start to think, how can generative AI help Korean teachers so that you can be liberated from administrative work with AI and you can focus on your human teaching job. And this is just to give you the indication from PISA. Not necessarily learning more does not lead to better productivity of learning. So the question is quality of learning time and teaching time over quantity of learning and teaching time, because Korean students learn a lot, so that implies Korean teachers are learning a lot. So since I'm running out of time, so I will end here, but just to show you some of the constructs we are discussing. So a lot of constructs. What are the key skills? What are the key attitudes and values important for teachers? And we can share with you the slide so that you can share your reactions with the OECD. So we very much welcome Korean continued contribution. So thank you.
Okay. Mio, thank you very much. Actually, I asked you to demanding kind of work. During the last 20 years work, you summarized in 20 minutes. Thank you very much. 2015년부터 시작한 이 프로젝트를 20분 안에
This project was started 2001, and she has been doing a lot of work in order to summarize within 20 minutes. But my habit is to have a 1-minute summary whenever I hear a presentation. Miho's presentation is about the education program 2030, and she has these programs. So 2030 as a program has keywords, which is about how we want our future to be, not to make our future made for us. So we have to find the gap of the S's and to be. And the first thing they did is to have the renovation of the computer room for students in order for teaching our students with the computers, what kind of computer rooms do we have to have as teachers. So, and those learning competencies has been where Korea was very actively involved. But in the Miho's presentation, you have seen a lot of data. So it's characteristics about the Korean teachers. So far, the teachers' learning competencies will be analyzed. So in one sentence, Korean teachers' characteristics is that they believe that they have the pride of a teachership, but they have a lot of administrative burden, and also they have a lot of other works expected of them. So that's evidenced by the data of OECD. So we are proud to have the quality of Korean teachers, and then we also have the quantity. And then that's because of the sacrifice made by our teachers. That's what Miho said. Also, teacher competencies is something that we want to be invited further. So since we have Dr. Oh here from KD, we'd like to expect that that could happen in the future further. Thank you. Now with that, I'd like to invite the next speaker. Professor Imelda Caledon will be talking about more detailed ideas. What would be the light and shadow of the students in this world of today, and what the teachers can do?
Bring resilient and flourishing learners in the complex and interconnected world. 자, 큰 박수로 이멜다 교수님을 환영해 주세요.
Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Okay, I'm a big
예, 알겠습니다. 감사합니다. 저는 이런 사회 인식 이론에 대해서 굉장히
Leo. I hope I pronounce it properly. Okay, so I'm here to share with you my favorite construct, which is resilience. And in doing so, I will be drawing on the results of a decade of research involving adolescents in Singapore. Okay, this figure effectively captures the essence of my favorite construct. Okay, look at the tree. This is a special tree because it has experienced a lot of storms, strong winds, but it remained standing. What it does when there is storm, there is strong wind, it bends. And when the storm comes down, it goes back to its original form and continues to grow. The question is, why? My answer? It's because it has strong roots. And it is on a very good soil, a very fertile soil. For today, I will share with you how our students can have strong roots and how that fertile soil can be developed by us. Okay, so here's an overview of my presentation. First, I'll share about the opportunities and risk factors associated with the digital era. Okay, and then I'll share about how resilience is relevant to this situation. Then I'll share about the distinctive attributes that differentiate resilient students from their peers who are not very resilient. Next, I'll share with you how social support and relationship is associated with resilience. And then what classroom practices, if I have time, what classroom practices can potentially nurture resilience amongst our students. The students who are experiencing lots of change and a lot of exposure to digital technology. Okay, so I won't go through very detailed on this, but I think because of the sharing earlier, you know by now that the digital era has offered a lot of opportunities for our students to learn. Okay, anywhere, anytime, information is at their fingertips. Okay, the internet and the social networks is also serving the purpose of allowing our students to explore and express their identity, to improve or form friendships. They also experience sometimes, based on the likes, the reactions of their friends, they develop self-esteem. Some of our students do their homework with their friends online, and they have higher academic achievement. But according to research, it follows a U-shaped curve, meaning there is a maximum point of their social network use and internet use. Afterwards, it will drop. Okay, the performance will drop. Then, together with the opportunities, there are also risk factors. What are these risk factors? Well, some of our students, not just Koreans, but also Singaporeans, they get addicted to social networks, to the internet, okay? Our adolescents, our students also become more susceptible to cyber victimization. They are also using social media as a means for social comparison, which is very much connected to their self-concept and also their well-being, okay? Then they also get exposed to threats like negative evaluation, pressure to conform, also security threats. Then the last part here is, which is not very good, some of our students, okay, due to their social media exposure, they develop higher levels of depression, lower levels of academic achievement, and greater interpersonal conflicts. Not to mention the physical aspects. Some of them lose a lot of sleep. You know, sleep is very important in learning as well. So, to address these risk factors, resilience is a very important construct. According to studies, those who have higher levels of resilience tend to be less affected by the stressors that are present in this highly digitalized world. okay? And those who are high in resilience, they also have lower levels of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. There's also a study, I think a Korean has done that. Okay, so now let me share with you what is the essence, what is resilience. Resilience has dual identity. Okay, just like me, I have dual identity. Okay, I'm from the Philippines, but I'm Singaporean. Okay, dual identity. Okay, resilience can be considered as a trait, somewhat stable. Okay, it is referred to as the ability to bounce back. I think most of us know that resilience is like that. It's a trait. It's like your personality, you're resilient or not. Okay? Another identity or another aspect of resilience is that it is also a process. Okay? It is a process of positive adaptation. Okay? And later on, I'll explain to you what is the meaning of positive adaptation. Okay? And it's also in the context of significant adversities. So those who have very blessed life, not exposed to adversities, they don't have much opportunity to develop resilience because resilience is developed when you are exposed to significant challenges, adversities, stress factors, threats. Okay, so resilience also can come in many forms. It could be academic, it could be digital, it could be social, it could be physical, okay? So this is basically my research, okay, academic resilience. Some of our students, they have these risk factors in such a way that with the presence of these risk factors, you think that, oh, these students cannot make it, or maybe they will drop out. So some of them, they have speech delay, they have poor attention span, low prior achievement. More likely, we will predict they will fail. But when they achieve academic success, they achieve key milestones of competencies, we could say that, oh, this student has developed resilience. Okay, so resilience is a heightened likelihood of success in school and other life accomplishments despite environmental adversities brought about by early traits, which are what I mentioned. So again, as I said, resilience, two key points are important. The presence of adversity. The other one is positive adaptation. There is a third factor, which I forgot to put here, the presence of protective factors. So when we are experiencing threats, adversities, risk factors, okay, we tend to experience some saving grace, some factors that protect us, that buffer the effect of these adversities, and we call them protective factors. Okay? Later on, I'll share with you some protective factors that have been surfaced in my research. Okay. There is also this, what we call digital resilience. This is also new to me. And this research was done by Sun et al. So here, it's like redefining the term stressor. Here we have peer pressure, cyberbullying, stress, FOMO, problematic online behaviors. These are the stressors, threats or adversities that I was saying earlier. And the positive adaptation, the indicators will be this: achieving and exploring, continuing to use the social media, having lifestyle adjustment, recovering from stress quickly, and having a sense of safety while in the virtual world. Okay, so we are now having two forms of resilience. The good news is resilience is not something that either you have or you don't have. It is something that can be developed. It is malleable, a malleable trait. Okay, so the guiding principles in my research, as I said, my favorite, so Bandura's social cognitive theory. The other one is self-determination theory. Okay, I won't expound on the first because I gave an example earlier, but under the self-determination theory, every one of us, every human being, we have three basic psychological needs: the need for relationship, the need to belong, the need to bond, the need to feel competent, the need to feel that we're capable of achieving our goals, autonomy, that is the agency I think that Miho was talking about, okay? So this is about feeling that whatever you're doing is your choice. You're the one who chose it. You selected it. It's based on your own interests and goals. And according to studies, the self-determination, if the satisfaction of these needs are high, we tend to have higher levels of well-being, higher levels of motivation, higher levels of resilience, low levels of FOMO. Okay, that was also another study. Okay, so what are the distinctive attributes of students in our study who develop resilience? Okay, so this one is our study, which is about, how many years is that? 4 years. Okay, a longitudinal study involving adolescents in Singapore. Our study focused on students who were initially failing. And then afterwards, after 3 years, they turned around, they did great, they did well in their grades. So what differentiated the students who developed academic resilience? They are able to set clear and realistic goals. They are also able to face the problem. They use problem-solving strategies and manifest agentic thinking, achieving their goals. They also express persistence in pursuing their goals. Special thing on dealing with failure. They see failure as a challenge. They are not easily discouraged. They bounce back quickly after failure. They are aware of the reasons for their failure. They address their failure by building or accessing resources and doing remedial action, okay? They also manage and regulate their emotions well, okay? So, as a summary, these are some of the, I did not share everything, okay? See, those with asterisks are derived from our study, and those without asterisks were drawn from other, classic studies in resilience. So many years of studies on resilience. Okay, so then for digital resilience, there are also some hallmarks, okay? So those who develop digital resilience are those who are able to recognize and understand the stressors, the threats online that they experience. They know the solutions on how to deal with those stressors. They also, while they are experiencing the stress, they also learn and develop skills. They recover from stress. And then, this one is not in my earlier definition, they move forward with self-efficacy, meaning that they think they're still capable of going online and learn. Okay, that is digital resilience. Okay, how do we nurture resilience from within? What can teachers do? Well, teach them to set goals well. Share stories of resilience. As I told you, I'm a fan of Bandura. We could learn from the experiences of others, whether fictitious or not, or fiction or not. We could learn from the stories of resilience of others. Those who are able to develop digital resilience, we could learn from them. Teachers could also share their own stories of resilience to students. And, okay, the last tip that I'm sharing is about how to regulate emotions. One of the most powerful strategies to regulate emotions is what we call self-talk, talking to the self, reflections, and also reframing failure, reframing challenges in such a way that they are seen as opportunities for change and growth. I could share with you more details, but because I don't have much time, I only have 4 minutes, okay, so I can share further. Okay, I'm just in the middle and I've been moving fast. Okay, resilience is also very much built on relationships. I could stop here already, don't say anything else, but relationships are very powerful when it comes to developing resilience. In the classic studies of resilience, the presence of one person who is emotionally stable in the life of somebody who's highly at risk, okay, can actually make that person turn around. Relationships are very important in the development of resilience. In our study called the DREAM study, which is a longitudinal study in Singapore, we just started last year, we are focusing on the development of adolescents and I'm focusing more on relationships. We found that support from 3 significant others, parents, teachers, and peers, and also the quality of relationships are significant predictors of general resilience, so meaning bouncing back in general context, okay, ability to adapt positively to stressors. We also found that, okay, this one is, I forgot to mention that many students develop this high level of social-emotional loneliness in relation to positive relationship with social media use. And we realized that, quality of relationship with significant others and also peer support, the support from the significant others can actually be potentially good protective factors because they are negatively associated with social-emotional loneliness. Okay, we also found in our study that resilience can moderate the relationship between social media use for communication and connection and social-emotional loneliness. If you notice here, there is a positive relationship between social media use and social-emotional loneliness, which is somewhat counterintuitive, but resilience can moderate that effect, can weaken that relationship. And also, we also found that same relationship when it comes to depressive symptoms. Okay, I will skip this part because I would like to go to, I only have 2 minutes. So, teachers can also help students connect with their peers by looking at their social networks. This is another pet project of mine, looking at the peer networks of students and how they form relationship across groups and looking at cross-group connectedness. Okay, so teachers can play a key role when it comes to resilience, and they have to be attentive to students' needs. My key point here, I won't be presenting the details, is that simple acts of connecting with the students, asking them how they are, asking them if they need help. For the students, it matters a lot. This actually came from teachers, the interviews of teachers and interviews of students. Okay, these teachers are the teachers of the students who develop resilience. I call them turnaround teachers. Simple acts of trying to connect with the students can make a difference. Okay, and then in our study, we also noted that high attentiveness and engagement interaction with students can also improve relationships and promote resilience. These are some of the interview transcripts that we have developed. Technology can be utilized to enhance the connection with students. Okay, so autonomy can be supported by listening to students' voices. We can elicit students' voices using technology as well, giving them choices, no need for many choices, just giving them choices could enhance their sense of autonomy. Okay, I'd like to end, because I only can I have 1 minute to close my presentation? Okay, what would be my suggestions? This was the key question that our organizers posed to me. How should teacher professional training be like? What are your suggestions so that you could increase the likelihood of our students to develop resilience? Okay, so here are some of my suggestions. Maybe we could include a course on the art of failing. Teach the students how to fail in safe environment, how to process their failure, and also how to deal with change. So, change could be shocking for some of them. How can we buffer the effect of change? How can we become more open to change, embrace change? Okay? The art and science of wellness. Right now, there's a big research. They're looking at the science of well-being, positive psychology movement, simple acts of kindness, simple acts of counting your blessings can enhance well-being. Okay, those are parts of the possible activities that can be included in this course. Also, harnessing the power of stress. I just talking to a colleague here, and I told her that actually for me, stress actually also has a dual identity. It has a debilitating effect when it's chronic, but it also has enhancing effect when it's short-term because it helps you focus. Your senses become more sharp when you are under stress, and you can present better when you're under stress. Okay, and then the other one is other aspects of teacher training that I would like to suggest is the science of relationship. Relationships are very important in resilience. So how do we nurture, form relationships? This is very important for our students, even online. How do they deal with conflict? How do we maintain friendship with those who are different from us? Okay? How do we enhance openness to diversity? And then the next one is listening with the heart, listening with empathy. I was talking about with Joao about this, the idea of empathy, listening with empathy, knowing the perspective of our students, what kind of threats, what kind of pressure they are experiencing. Because for us, we think it's just small thing, but for them, it's something big, you know? So we cannot judge the level of stress or stressor that they experience on our own. We have to use their own perspective. We have to listen with the heart. Okay, then this one, the last part. Okay, so I also would like to suggest in teacher training that we teach our students, teach the teachers to teach the students how to train attention. There is now a big research when it comes to executive functioning, how to regulate attention. Because our students tend to have short attention span because they are in the digital era. So with training in executive functioning, they can learn how to stay focused for a longer period of time because they have to learn, they have to focus more in what they are learning to learn deeply. They also have to be taught how to choose wisely. Like which one is fake news, which one is not, which one to trust, which one is not to be trusted, which ones should be okay, sorry, I'm lost with choosing wisely. Okay, but it's about making wise choices, using wisdom to make choices online, you know, even in life, okay? Because autonomy needs wisdom in order to be practiced well. Next is making sense. I have heard Mio mentioning something about sense of purpose. I think we need to cultivate reflection practice amongst our students and also amongst our teachers, which could develop metacognition. Okay, metacognition means awareness of what we know, what we don't know, our strengths, our weaknesses, how to manage and control our own learning, and how do we learn from our experiences. We need to include this for me, okay, we need to include this in teacher training, making sense. And the last one is design of environment. I think all of them have discussed about that. Oh my God, I exceeded 4 minutes. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I'm ending, so maybe you don't have to question me anymore. I took a lot of time. Okay, so my final words is this. To nurture resilient students, teachers need to be resilient too. And I would like to ask you, how are you? I hope you are well. Please take care of yourself. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. 감사합니다. 우리가 기획에서 사실
Thank you. We hadn't expected this kind of granular detail in the planning stage, but listening to her presentation and listening from what Miho has covered, it seems that all of it is very highly integrated. Just to briefly summarize, she has talked about the resiliency, something quite new to the students living in this connected world. There's a lot of risks and opportunities in this new world. So students that make good use of SNS have good achievement in terms of performance, but then they're also subject to depression or exposed to cyberbullying and a lot of negative dimensions as well. So resiliency has become all the more important. So in Singapore, they have conducted a lengthy study and identified how these students have overcome such challenges. And those who have not actually confronted these challenges are not able to wisely override the difficulty. And there are a lot of things to explain that, but just in a word, remember how that tree, it wasn't knocked down by the storm? It was because of that fertile soil that it was able to hold the roots firm. And who plays that role is the teacher. Now in the learning compass, transitioning to a teacher compass, it's supposed to mirror each other. That was mentioned by Miho, and also as what Ms. Kalyana said, in order to enhance this student resiliency, the teachers must also build up their resiliency as well. So when I moderate a session, I realized the important function of a moderator in summing up. I think I did a good job wrapping up, and recapping because I'm fluent in Korean. Now that said, the final presentation will be delivered in Korean, very clearly in your mother language, by Mr. Sung Bok Yang, teacher of Yeonggwang Jungang Elementary School. So with that, let us invite Mr. Yang.
네, 책임감이 과도한 한국 교
Yes, the pressure is on me. I'm a Korean teacher. My name is Sung Bok Yang. Now, I'd like to talk about some of the things that are being newly attempted at our school. It's not something that I'm doing myself personally, but it's something done at the school level. I'm sort of nervous, but I'll try to bring up my courage. Now, I work at Yeonggwang Jungang Elementary School. In Yeonggwang, about 50,000 people live there. And our school is about ranked 11th in the region, so it's quite small. Now, our school, since 2022, we conduct an open class, about 4 to 5 sessions a year. So in order to identify the modeling for a digital classroom. And there's a new experiment conducted at our school. And what that is sharing. You may question, what's new about sharing? It's always been there.
공유를 시작하기
We've started sharing on the digital platform.
때 태블릿 PC를
So at the beginning of the school year, all teachers are given a tablet PC that they could access the same set of data. And all of the co-work happens in this sharing folder. And needless to say, this folder is related to our curriculum. So if you look into our curriculum, there are 3 things that we could talk about as the pillars. First is a digital paper, comprising of the digital textbook and worksheet, and also a digital creation that encompasses the creativity products of the students, and also recordings of all of the digital work, the digital record. And when we say digital paper, that may sound a bit awkward to you, right? Because when we share things, well, typically in an average school, we photocopy papers and share that information to the students and teachers, right? That was the most simple form to date. That was a tradition, so to speak. But in order to enhance that convenience without risking collaboration, we looked into various tools. And we realized that there's an app on our tablet PCs called Numbers app. It's quite similar to Microsoft Excel sheet. So if you delete this graph over here, it disseminates in the digital world in unlimited scale. There's a lot of video sources. You can also add a lot of different data and sources. And there's a sheet tab. So as students take around with them binders, there's different binders in this digital paper app. And through this share link, students can log on and collaborate using this digital paper. So students and teachers also utilize this digital textbook in a collaborative learning environment. So this is an actual digital textbook that we use. You notice there's digital images, and also the voices of the teachers and students can also be recorded. So there's a speaker here. You can record your own voice. And for the frequently asked questions by the students, you could add videos, load them on to the digital textbook to address some of the recurring errors. And also, students can bring with them some videos to add onto this to enhance the level of interest and curiosity in learning in the classroom environment. And I mentioned earlier that it's quite similar to Excel spreadsheet. You create a chart, graph, tables, and students can also utilize digital pencils and let your creativity flourish. And the drawing that you've made, it's also played with the history. And I'll show you the deliverables later on. Okay, so you can also keep a record of your personal history of your work. And we talked about foundational knowledge. In order to check that, you can link that to AI courseware so that students can capture their work and keep track of the learning process. Now, this is what one of our students have done Notice that it's accumulated in a binder format. So in every class, what's been worked on by the student is all collected here, and teachers provide feedback on each of these work assignments. And you notice there's a test. It's an AI worksheet. It's captured here. It's recorded for each semester, and there's a dashboard report that's generated upon the work done to provide a diagnosis on the performance on the student and plan for the next coursework. Now, does this happen between teachers and students only? Well, there's also sharing between and among teachers. We use the same app, the Numbers app. Now, all of our teachers are quite active on this endeavor. Every afternoon on Monday, what they do is they make a weekly plan of their courses and upload this course syllabus and also upload the work done by their students and then add the teacher's feedback to that. And this isn't done on a class-by-class basis, but for the entire school. It's not just one grade. Fifth grade, sixth grade, and third grade, fourth, even the lower grades. And of course, the younger students do not utilize digital tablets, but they can also participate with this digital sharing platform with the work that they've done offline. And as a result of this class sharing, let us look at what sort of products the students have created. Now, it's digital creation. There's drawing, pictures, videos, music. We use a Procreate app. Students create this themselves. And in an art class, so drew a self-portrait. Use the Keynote app when you paint a natural scenery. This is what they did with the technology to create this sense of distance with the natural scenery. Okay, and there's also music here. There's actually a very exciting background music here. Oh, we're getting the music. Good. Okay, this student went on a field trip to Jeju Island and took this video with his little brother. Now, all of this is edited by the student herself. Okay. And by utilizing basic applications, the students sometimes create their own music, like this. It's not exceptional quality, but it's important that the students at least make an attempt to create music for him or himself. Okay, I'll try to be a faithful 18-minute presenter, so I'll stop here. And digital creation, there's a portfolio that binds all of these different works together. And every semester for the upper graders, we have an electronic book that is created. This is actually created by the student as well. It's a portrait that I talked about earlier. Now this is word art. This is an expression of one thinks about the Korean language. It was all done personally by the students and also the writings. If you want feedback, you can get that feedback from AI. And in the course of writing, there's a lot of different topics and prompts. It's also shown, and also it shows the kind of emotions felt throughout the writing process. And there's another course that it student input. There's also word art. Now this is the title of one of the books that we created. It's number 5 lane. So students make contributions on the subjects such as social studies and moral ethics. So through these outcomes, we can quite safely say that if we're going to transition to a digital school, we would need a faithful infrastructure for fundamental knowledge and learning. And once the infrastructure is in place, the teachers could utilize appropriate tools to produce works of creativity. And that will not be transient and disappear once done, but it'll be recorded in a form of an electronic book and a portfolio and binder. And at the end of the day, we send this to the parents so that the parents can look through what's been done by the parents' children. And we also ask for the parents' comments. So the parents' participation in school activities would also go up. So we're making our way up in this pyramid to eventually reach our uppermost goal of digital creation. The last pillar is digital record. As Ms. Miho has mentioned earlier, Korean teachers, I'm one of them, by the way, we're not able to escape the burden of excessive administrative work. So through the digital records, we exchange a lot of schedules and also various materials that have to be distributed among the teachers. Now there is a calendar schedule. Now this is the power of sharing. One person has put this here, but everybody could view it. And you did not concurrent logins. You can log in at different times and yet view the same set of data to get insight into the schedule, what you need to do. And this is the school sport festival, the requirements, the student personal information, and also different grade classifications. When I say grade classification, it's grade 3 and 4 together and grade 5 and 6 together. However, in the foreground to all of this, there's just a lot of thinking surrounding the curriculum design. So rather than respond in a passive manner, we have to think more actively, proactively, what kind of education, what kind of curriculum we want to design for our students. So there was a team that was in charge of that. And with regard to curriculum design, we accumulated school data and analyzed that. So initially, we looked into what sort of courses we wanted to design and what the school needed. So we had a test bed pilot project late last year. And for each of the teachers and students, we could give them a survey to answer. This is leadership team, some photo evidence of our activities. This is the products that are created by the teachers and students, and some of the things that our students are doing. And on top of this, there's something else that we do. Now, we cannot separate ourselves from assessment, so we have to also think about assessment with all of these work done by the students. Now, the reason why I designed it this way is this, that one person or one particular group is not going to lead the entire school organization. Once you have a discipline system in place, it's not a hero teacher, a single hero teacher that controls everything, but actually a compilation of the works of different teachers and members of the school organization that creates this. So it's a teacher-student collaborations to enable fundamental knowledge building of the students to build his or her own value, sense of self-value. And one can also utilize appropriate technology to create what you want, whether it's photos, videos, music, and whatnot. And you can accumulate the portfolio of the work assignments that you've completed. Then if this is done successfully, what would be some of the advantages of school digitalization? Again, the same word again, sharing. In an elementary school classroom, there's a wall between two different rooms. And it's hard to get a glimpse into what's done in the classroom next to you. But by this sharing platform, you can always expose yourself to other classrooms and also engage in active discussions on the results or the outcomes of that class. And also the deliverables are products of the students. We could cheer each other up or congratulate one another and really be astonished and amazed at the work of your peers and cheer one another for further personal growth. And this process also enabled teacher growth as well. And furthermore, I believe that our school's model is quite successful because the core personnel had good knowledge about the systematic features of our schools. So we benchmarked some other models and adopted to our school. So I think that kind of approach is good in scaling up this digitalization project. So our school doesn't necessarily have to be our school. It could be another school in Daejeon, in Seoul, or in Jeollanamdo. If a single school in Jeollanamdo did it, then any other school in any other part of the region could also do an equally good job. So we are continuing to make effort to disseminate this digitalization model. And the key to digital transformation success, if I were to share that with you for a moment now, these are our students. Now, many people are surprised. The students are so naturally using their tablets. Well, it's only natural because the language used at our school is different. Well, typically one would say, well, for this class, we'll be using tablet PCs, so we'll take it out of your drawers or take it out of your bag. But at our school, we'll say we're not going to be using tablet PCs for this class, so don't bring it. So tablet PCs are used for practically all of the subjects, so it's across the board digital teaching and learning. So tablet PC utilization is like a default tool for all the students at our school. So it's not intended for one or two teachers or for a particular program. The courses visualize is conducive to identifying the unique talents of different individual students. Okay, with that, I conclude. Thank you very much. Just for information, I'm the only one that kept to the strict 18-minute limit. Thank you very much. There's a keynote speech and the two panel presentations. I think that was a recap of everything we talked about so far. So in this digital transformation age, all of this is not impossible. It's part of our reality happening here in Korea. And because of digitalization, teacher to teacher and teacher to student sharing has become all the more possible and also become more conducive to dissemination of this model. So we have listened to all of the three panelist presentations. And it's not fair to not give the audience the floor to say a few things. And we have 17 minutes on the clock. So I'd like to ask for about 3 people to ask questions that you have. And when you do, please identify your name and your association, and also to whom you are directing your question. And then in closing, I'll wrap up and end. And you weren't able to ask any questions on the keynote presentation. So if you have any questions on the keynote, please raise your hand for a brief question. Identify yourself first and state your question very concisely. If you don't ask any question, if you don't raise your hand, I will shoot a razor beam and cold call you. Is there a question on that side? Yes. Yes, Mr. Joe has always begged for questions. I talked about how important questions more important than answers. Okay, though, in the black dress.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Park Jin-young from KEDI. Well, I would like to appreciate presentations by all the speakers today. Out of them, Mr. Yang, I have a question to you. The new form of education of digital format, you have to have all the classes observed for you. So do you have any training for teachers to do the same thing? Or what about other teachers who they are going to what they are doing in order to develop their capabilities? Okay, we will save the answers later before getting the answers from Imelda. She has to also explain what it is about the importance of the training programs for teachers. You have to answer that question as well. So no more questions to Mr. Yang. So 2 questions should go to somebody else. Who's going to do that?
Yes, I'm a teacher in the province of Gyeonggi. I have a question for Dr. Miho Takuma. The teachers grapple with a lot of issues on the digital classroom and a lot of confusion surrounding this digital transformation. So when it comes to communication relationship with the students, that's also which is very important. And in the course of digital transformation, all of this can risk losing the balance that the seesaw could tip towards one extreme side. So, Ms. Miho, in this era of digital transformation, teachers, in terms of technology and the very inherent essence of education, what should be a greater focus on part of the teachers? It may be quite closely related to teacher competencies as well. So what is more important, technology or the essence of education? Yes, Korean teachers, their questions are very sharp. Ms. Miho, did you get the question?
Now we have had 2 questions, 1 more question. So Imelda should deserve a question. So anybody is interested in the resilience from the NIE project? If not, I have to raise that question. But I'm going to beam to some of the audience here back there, back in the room. I see some jacket, the navy color jacket wearing. So can you see that? Okay. Please ask a question. I pinpoint you to ask a question to Imelda. Do you have any question? You don't you? No? How about you, Deputy Director? Do you have a question? Well, I would like to take the initiative to ask a question to Imelda. I'm from the Educational Training Center for the Superintendent in Jeollanamdo. As for the resilience, what about the Singaporean students? Those Singaporean students must have also the access to the social network and the internet and others. What concerns them the most? So I'd like to know the question, to know how they are concerned about it, and also for the teachers, how they are concerned about their addictions. How do they teach or correct the behavior of the students? Would you like to give some cases and examples?
그러면 3개의 질문이 나왔고 저는 제가 가진
Now I've got 3 questions. I only have 13 minutes from now on. So I'd like to give equal time to all the speakers to have the same amount of time to answer questions.
your final remark. 오케이? 자, 그렇게 해서 사회자가 제일 잘하는 역할은
So the moderator should be a timekeeper by saying thank you and that's it at 5 p.m. sharp. That's my goal today. Now, Mr. Yang, would you like to answer the question, how do you teach other teachers?
Yes, when we also let's go digital, if everybody said, yay, that would be wonderful, right? But that was not the reality. This year, there was a big turnover in our school organization. A lot of them left the school. It's a public school, so there's bound to be a turnover in the teacher population. About 2/5 were new ones, and not everybody voted in favor of this digital transformation. So I haven't included this in the slides, but there were some questions or resistance as to why we have to do this. So we made sure that we made clear the educational objective of this and some of the ways to achieve that. And we made an assessment of this. So there were a lot of big headaches that we addressed at the outset. And then after that, we looked at some of the characteristics of the devices we use and had discussions on that. So there are about 5 workshops over a few weeks at our school for the teachers. So we talked about our system, our framework, our tools, and the teachers would have to fill in. So this was something that's solicited on the part of the other fellow teachers. So I kind of like pushed them, nudged them to go this way. But for doing that, I always made it clear that we have this framework and clearly communicated that. And grade 3, 4, 5 has to do this, and grades 1 and 2 do not use the tablets. We can't do all this, so please utilize the sharing platform and whatnot, etc. And of course, there were those who did not take part. Even today, not everybody is doing this. So it's again a public school, so that's a reality that we just must accept. Yet, that said, but there are people who are not participating that show an interest, and I continue to request and invite them to join. Yes, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Park Jin-young asked the question, and the answer is that was not easy, but there is a training program for teachers, and you have to have some kind of the carrots and sticks for the teachers to be involved in, and not expecting everyone to be in. So should be a culture for teachers to be participating in such programs. That was very good idea.
Other basic literacies, what do you think? Should we have a balanced view or what do we do?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much for a very relevant question, which is currently discussed at the global level too. But that balance depends on several factors. One is student age appropriateness. So whether you are teaching primary or high school, totally different balance. And in particular, for the high schoolers, there will be more risks about the ethics and personal data issues. So teachers need to be lifelong learners as well. And also, AI developers are quite different depending on where they come from. So US is more like a liberal market. So schools need to be even more cautious than schools in Europe, for example. So you need to be aware of the AI developers itself within Korea as well. And also the student-teacher relationship does matter about that balance. And in Asian countries where Confucianism already predetermines a relationship, it's harder to give more autonomy to students. But during the COVID, Korean teachers were more open. So Estonian example was Estonian students were quite already more advanced, and teachers who were not really familiar, but they were able to ask students, okay, you are IT specialist student, help teachers. And so there are different ways to use talent, capitalize the talent within and among teachers and students. So teachers can be more like a designer and co-creator together with the student, together with the AI developers. So there will be new roles no one has ever seen about teachers' professions. And we can shape that role better together.
Okay, thank you very much. 오늘 계속해서 들리는 얘기가 교사들은
Well, I keep hearing that teachers are designers of learning. Mr. Andreas Schleyer also said teachers are engineers of teaching and learning. So in that context, we need to have a balanced view. So thank you very much for that. Last but not least, we also have the answers from Imelda.
do you have any examples? Do you have any exact samples in Singapore?
Hello. Okay. So exact examples of the use of social networks? Oh, okay. So in Singapore right now, the ministry, okay, the background first, the ministry is focusing more on peer support, mobilizing students as peer supporters, like the peers help to look after the well-being of their peers, okay? And they utilize this social network analysis. Many schools, the ministry has developed a software that the schools can use in creating the sociograms of the friendship networks of the students. Okay, some schools, they use it to identify social isolates, those who are disconnected from the network. And then for me, I share with them how to potentially identify those students at strategic locations in the network that can be potential peer supporter or body of the socially isolated students. So Singapore is moving towards developing a program. I mean, it's already running, okay? It has a very strong peer support program, and then including social network analysis. Yeah?
Thank you very much. Last but not least, I want to ask this kind of question to Jo. We all know that this is the era of digital transformation, and we know that student competency should be changed to create the a future that we really want. And we all know that teacher competency is important, but there are so many unanswered questions. You just posed the question and you didn't give us exact answer. So I'd like to take this opportunity to give your opinion. What should we do? What would be your answer, not the question?
Okay, so now I know that it was a complete failure, my talk, because I didn't give any answers. Well, I think that when we listen to the three interventions we had this afternoon, and also relating to Andres Schleiser's points, it's very clear that when we're talking about digital transformation, we are not talking about transformation just because. It was mentioned by Miho that, and also by Imelda, that teachers need a purpose. There is no teacher agency, there is no teacher willingness to change if there is no purpose. And also the example we had from this school is a very good example that it's not just about replacing textbooks for iPads. It's not just about replacing what the teachers used to be in paper by a schedule that is typed on a machine. So my first answer would be, you have to ask yourself why. Why do you want to change? Why do you need this digital transformation? And again, there is an obvious answer, which is, well, it's part of our daily life. And again, I'd like to bring in the topic of equity, because if we think, well, this is not part of the mission of school, what this means is that those children that do not have families with technology at home, that are capable of teaching them on how to deal with technology, they will not be equipped with the relevant competencies. So I would say the first question is why, so define the purpose at the national level, at the school level, at an individual level. Because if we don't understand why we want this change, there will be no adhesion by the teachers. Teachers need to be convinced and self-convinced for the need for change. And when we answer this, we have these new needs, but we also have the issues that Imelda so brilliantly talked about. We have new sources of anxiety. We have new sources of self-exclusion. We have new sources of bullying and violence in schools. And because of that, that's another response to the question why. We need to address these things in school, and we need to adapt and learn how to deal with these things. And also, there is this fear that in some countries teachers are experiencing. There is this fear that there will be some robot that will be replacing the teacher, that there will be some kind of AI that will be more effective than the teacher. No, the pandemic showed us that this is not the case. There is a human and effective relation in the act of teaching. And that brings me to the additional why. We want digital because we want to remain human. And for this, we need to address this point that was very, very important about the balance between digital and playing outside, the balance between reading books on a screen and reading books in paper, the balance between discussing face by face and communicating with a machine. Because education is about human development. Okay. And if we forget the essence of mankind and humanity, we are neglecting the mission of educators. So my answer to the question is to ask why.
네, 감사합니다. 네, 정각이 되었는데요. 사이먼 신에게
Yes, thank you. the book Why from Simon Siegel comes to mind. We talk about how, but not frequently why. But Joao said that we have to ask ourselves why all the time. And in order to remain as humans, we have to make use of the digital. So that was a very, very good recap in a nutshell. So we've had a panel session with 3 panel members, the keynote speaker. It was a very exciting discussion, which unfortunately has to come to an end. So there's the last question I leave you. Why do you need digital? In order to remain as more human. So as an official of the education department, let us all work together. And I hope that this session was a very reflective opportunity for all of us. Thank you very much.